Round two. Maybe for some it's round one. I don't know. Dave Nelson's my name. And again, the first walk we did, I wanted to get people to see what was going on with these potholes up against this lake, Pete's Lake out here, and that there's something going on, especially on the east side. So we'll be talking more about that. But I want you guys, I want to start the second presentation with this picture right here. And have you guys ever like experienced something for the first time and you're like, wow, that has completely changed my thoughts, my ideas and all. My son was in Alaska for a number of years and he took a picture inside a glacier. And I actually had a chance to go with him to Alaska, I think it was next year, and so I was inside. It changed my perspective. I was a glacier, teaching the Ice Age, talked about how glaciers within it carried all this sand and rock, and it had to be within the ice because in order to get cames, they have to fall down through the melting ice to build up. But when I was in these glaciers, they're like really clear. They're like rock free. Matter of fact, there were some rocks embedded, but they had fallen from the mountains onto top and they were working their way through. That's one thing. The other thing is, as I was looking beneath this ice, I'm thinking, I have never walked anywhere in Wisconsin where the terrain was like that. I mean, this is like what the terrain is like and all over this area, but I mean, in the Kettle Moraine, which is supposed to be a glaciated area, you can walk anywhere without tripping over boulders. You seldom see boulders in many spots, matter of fact.
Excuse me, is that picture actually inside of a glacier?
Yeah, we're in a glacier. In a glacier. This is the Mendenhall Glacier, which is by Juneau. And each year it changes because of the melting taking place. So it just so happened when I was there and the year before that there was a nice cavern. So you can enter, but as you walk, you kind of have to be careful of. So you walk in and it's just a beautiful landscape. The ice is so blue. The movie Ice Age, where they're inside, it's actually pretty realistic, of what it looks like. But it was just staggering. It's a whole new world, really. It's like being underwater and looking with a scuba lens. It's a different world. But again, the terrain, I don't recall. I do recall out west in the glaciated areas of Wyoming and Oregon, where I had to watch every step because of all the rock debris. But not here in Wisconsin. So I wanted us to figure out, okay, what's going on here? You guys have seen that there's a lake, there's a bunch of potholes. Is there a pattern? Because scientists are looking for patterns, right? We want to know why things are the way they are, how God aligned things. Well, if you look at this is all like, up here is all flat, basically flat land. And this is all pretty much in here flat land. And these are all, it's the same level, but this area is where you have all the divots. Everything's been carved out. And there is something that's coming like this. It's like a V. Do you guys kind of see that? There's this region. And if you look in here, there's like a really big, like, canyon area. It kind of goes here, here, here. And then it keeps going here, where it's a lake. And then it kind of goes over there. Kind of, to me, it reminds me of the images of the Scablands. We're seeing some carved out regions. But, so anyways, we're looking at what's going on. What produced this? If it's vortex, I'm not sure. Because the edge of the ice or the edge of the water would be up here. That's where the South Kettle Moraine is, or where the two lobes came together. So what was this here? Not quite sure, but let's take a look at another angle. Here we are. Do you guys see any patterns here? Anything? Does it look like random ice chunks melting, or are there like patterns here? Anything pop out to you guys here? You see? The fingers. Do you see those? Yeah, you got like this little valley, and then you got almost the same size pothole and something like that there. And then you got these. Interesting. What does this mean? I think there's meaning behind this. There's it's not just randomness, and that's not what I'm trying to get across. With ice, typically you get randomness. But with deluge, with vortex forces, there's patterns that start to unfold here. So what we're going to do is get to know the Coke abilities a little bit more. And I did bring along, this is my, unfortunately I had to destroy a good spatula, but it's shaped like a Coke. So basically, this is what we're talking about today. It's shaped like a tornado. It can be, you know how tornadoes can be like really wide at the base too? Well, that's what these Cokes can be. And that's what I think was going on in the lake. It's all planed out there. How can it be so plain? Well, if you have vortex spinning around that's nice and wide, that could plane it out very nicely. Everything is removed from above. So let's go back to the Scablands. This is somewhere in Washington State, and you can see that sometimes potholes are steep, but this is a pothole area, obviously not that steep. I need to tell you about the Kettle Moraine, my first hike of actually hiking a trough. I had done the Scablands in 2014, and I had taken pictures, but I hadn't hiked any paths in the Scablands. I saw the activity of Cokes, and I thought, I wonder what it would be like to walk a path in the Scablands and to see what these Cokes actually did. But then I was thinking in the Kettle Moraine, but there might be these paths here, and I remember reading a geologist talk about troughs in a certain area. I drove over there, this was March afternoon, I believe, and the angle of the sun was perfect, and I got out of the car, went over a hill, this is what I saw. And I don't know if you can see, but it's just a beautiful, beautiful pathway. I started hiking this, and it became for me, I'm like, I think I'm the first person to ever go on a hike of hiking a trough to see if it really is a Coke trough. And as I got over the hill, and as I approached the hill, there was that little dimple, little trough, and I go over all of a sudden here it keeps going. It's about 15, 20 foot drop. And then there's another little dimple over there. And over on the sides, there were some dimples. And I followed that, and I first thought, well, maybe this is a road someone built, because, it's kind of steep, but then I realized, well, there's a 200-some-year-old maple tree there in the middle, so I don't think that was a road. So this is just a natural. And what I've come to learn about the Kettle Moraine is this is what it is. It's just lots of troughs all over the place. It's just that I had never hiked a trough. I had never thought of a trough. I just look at the land. I don't look at the area in between the land. So it was a complete renewal of my mind. But Cokes can be all sizes. They can be a lot skinnier. They can be wider, just like tornadoes. And we had seen this picture originally before, and you can see how it carved out this in the Scablands of Washington State. But over here, you can see how the water basically carved out these deep impressions. And this, I believe, is one of the big things that scientists had to realize. Well, it can't be from just a little river or a river overflowing. This is big. And when you look at the dynamics of what does it take to have water carving out solid bedrock 50, 60 feet deep. This is super powerful. And we normally hear from geologists that talk about a rock, it gets caught in an eddy and that rock will carve out a pothole. Well, we're beyond that. It's not a rock in an eddy. This is simply those Cokes, those hydro tornadoes that form. But notice how it forms on the edge of this mesa right here. This one in the middle of the mesa. That's the pattern I see in the Kettle Moraine. They form on them and they form beside them. Now,
Dave,
yes?
just quickly, that picture previous, like what is the scale here? Like how big would a person be?
Okay, put this way, from here to here, if this is typical of most areas, this is going to be around 200 feet high. So yeah, if a person's standing here, you're gonna see, and they're wearing a yellow shirt, you're gonna see a yellow dot. So this is a really big region, and there is no creek that flows through there at the present and all. It's actually, this is Washington State, the Scabland area. And the Scablands, again, it's really central. There's different areas that really stand out as big coke activity. So when you follow an edge of a trough, what I found in the Scablands, I'm walking along the base and I see this distinct edge. I call them engineers' dreams. You know, as an engineer is building a road, they want to make a nice distinct edge, and they use equipment to do that. The coke did it in less than 2 seconds probably. The kettle moraine, again, I'm finding all these trenches with beautiful distinct edges, beautiful edges. And it's like, how, if it's melting chunks of ice and all that stuff is sloughing, how do you get so beautiful? How do you get such incredible edges? Another one, this is, look at this edge in the kettle moraine. This is, again, just in a generally flat area, but you can see where coke went right through, right by the town of Dundee, by the way. And here's the Scablands. Again, a coke cut right through, beautiful edge across there. These funnel openings, Scablands, a coke moved in this direction, I'm guessing, and it basically carved a nice funnel shape, went from a U shape to a funnel shape here, where it spun out. And this is, right near my house, is a place where this trough comes and it forms a funnel just as it fans out. And then if you were to look in front, there'd be a big pothole region right there. This trough, a coke trough came across, opened up, and the coke went out into the pothole over here. So here's this funnel opening where it expands. You can actually walk along the edge and you can see this beautiful expansion on either side of it. Well, here in the Kettle Moraine at Mothy Lake, the campground, we're right by a campsite over here, and there's a trough that cuts right through the campgrounds, and it expands out this beautiful funnel opening. And it just so happens out here, they call it Mallard Hole Lake. It's a perfect circular depression. And then beyond that, there's a nice cut into, again, from all this coke activity. And again, large cokes. This is probably about an 80-yard wide coke that just blasted right through this lava rock. Probably it's about 50 feet deep, if not deeper. But you can see just the power. It came across one coke and just blasted that area. And here we are at Mothy Lake in North Kettle Moraine. Again, this was a level surface, just like this was a level surface, but a coke went right across here, blasted out this trench as well, leaving behind. Now, we have trees in Wisconsin, so we typically don't really think about the terrain that much, especially this summer. We can't because of the leaves and everything. Once again, coke hopping. Here's a nice trench. You can see where as this coke went across, it just did a little hop as it kept going. And this coke went from here to here. This distinct edge, I think this is really important. We mentioned this pothole previously in the Scablands where you have this spinning taking place and distinct edge. You see the ground, and right there is where no longer was it in contact with the surface. So this terrain here, if you were to analyze the soil, very different than this soil right here, because this has been impacted by that vortex rotation. Kettle moraine, same thing. You can see right across there, boom, right at that inflection point. That's the spot at the edge of this vortex rotating that was happening right here. And something that people should know, when you look at where a coke has done this type of work, this soil is radically different than the soil on top right here. Radically. It's because it's been, again, shaved and so much has been exposed. So I call it the rooter effect. When a coke is active, and it can cut a trench, but as it goes alongside, it can also leave behind a little rooted edge to it. This happens like in the scablands here, the kettle moraine. This happened along the edge of this one hillside right here. Matter of fact, in the kettle moraine, when you're driving up the main road and you look at the hills to your left and your right, those mostly have been rooted, where there's a distinct edge, and then it's a really steep area. But that is just a very, very common thing that Kochs will do. Now, this is something, as I've been studying, and I have a second book I'm working on. It's going to be like 400 pages for the North Kettle Moraine. If people want to go, whether virtual hike or actually, go hike, but you can see all these different deluge things from all these different sites, because it's omnipresent. It's everywhere, but everyone's a little bit different. God's creative. He's very creative in how he uses things. But I come across this and it's like, well, what's that doing there? You got this hillside, but you got this little impression. What in the world's that? So in doing all this research, I realized that with Kochs, and this is in the scablands, this is actually by the Columbia River. This is kind of a softer deposit area near the river. But as a Koch can just make contact, it can blast that out and leave behind this unique look. And this is something that I've been finding actually all over the kettle moraine. Once you see it, then it's like all over the place. And it's just a brief contact, hence the Koch kiss. Kochs can also go up against and produce a cavity. It's more than just a quick contact. It might be, for several seconds longer, but this is like a nice side cave. Some gentlemen mentioned about actually Kochs producing caves, and it's just such a fascinating thought that, yeah, there could be this tie between cave formation and Kochs. But here you can see a beautiful deep bite into there, and then in the kettle moraine, this ridge was running straight, then all of a sudden there's like a big semicircle. Here's the ridge that goes around, so it's a big semicircle, which again, Kochs coming up against it, bumping into it, carving into it. Now, for some of you, this might not be that interesting, but for some of you, I think you're going to find this fascinating. This terrain map of the scablands, terrain map of the kettle moraine, actually right by where I live. Look at this area here, the scablands. Do you see this valley, the Rift Valley? No lakes out here. There's a river, but it's a big, big valley. In the kettle moraine, here is this big valley like no lakes. There's a mesa in both of these places. To the right of the mesa in both of these places, the lakes are all over, but they're all swirly. Well, this is where there's tremendous Koch activity spinning around in this area as well. It's like a perfect match. I'm trying to contact creationists, people who, this is their living, this is their job to educate. It's like, look at this, okay? I mean, how can you not look into it? You look at the edge here, you see these Koch cavities. What do you see along the edge here? You got Koch cavities. You got your potholes. It just, all these things line up perfectly. And this is actually where I spent most of my work researching when I first went out there. I'm like, God, show me. I have no idea where to start, but I'm just to start where you showed me. And when I parked, he showed me amazing places, amazing things. A lot of people are so confused because if you see polished rock in Wisconsin, glaciers, but Kochs polish rock. I mean, this is lava rock, which is dull. Lava rock is only shiny when it's like freshly formed. The surface might have some shiny marks. Otherwise, lava rock is dull. But you can see where the Koch had come across. And there was places in the scablands where when the sun was right, I could see all these shiny spots because this vortex is so full of energy and it's also full of heat. It melts rocks. It explodes rocks. I remember talking to a group and a guy approached me and he's like, yeah, I work with vortexes. And he's like, when we spin that around, it gets really hot. I'm like, thanks for sharing because I wouldn't have known that, But yeah, you get this vortex. It's really, really hot. And the Bible talks about this too. We're going to get there in a little bit. The smile of God. All I know is when I was in the Scablands, looking all over the place and realizing that Colks had done this work, I saw smiley faces. I'm like, wow, that's a smile. God's behind this. We call it the smile of God. So everywhere I look, you can tell that's where a Colk had gone. And again, it can't be from natural weathering processes because it just doesn't happen like that. This is all lava rock. All this has been removed. And when you see a smile of God, it's not just that two dimension, it's actually a trough. There's actually, you'll see it continue on the other side. But the smile reveals where a Colk has been. I use this all the time in the kettle moraine. Look for the smile of God and you know where a trough is. Once you walk up to there and you look for another smile of God. That's all you do. You keep going and it'll lead you to a pothole. Or if it fans out. It's every experience is different following these troughs. Again, different spot in the kettle moraine here. The road's actually down there. It's kind of cool because you can see things from the road, but then when you get to the top, you're like, oh, it all continues. But there was actually a little bit of hopping going on. Once again, out in the Scablands, you can see, again, a beautiful spot where that Colk blasted through. So the prophet Nahum, we've been in the prophet Habakkuk, the prophet Amos, the shepherd of Tekoa. Nahum, how many of you know about Nahum here? Any experts on Nahum? I didn't know about Nahum until I started reading. Nahum, within 3 or 4 verses, describes what happened at Devil's Lake. At the place, have you guys ever been to the potholes at all in Devil's Lake? It's a place where the most hardcore scientists, they look at that, they're like, I don't know. And I think I have slides to show you there, but Nahum is all about what took place in 4 verses. His way is in the vortex in the storm. Whose way? God's way. It's in the vortex. I think they use the swirling, and we know a vortex is swirling. The hills melt away. That's kind of like when you look around the Scablands, you look at all this rock and you realize it's all been blasted, or you study the Missoula flood and the hills have been blasted away. The hills, but he says melt away. Oh, the heat, the vortex, that could melt it, the whole polish marks. The rocks are shattered before him. That's what they do. All those smiles you saw, that's rock being blasted away. Remember, Wikipedia says Colks, they can move boulders. But it's basically a war going on when a Colk is at work. It is blasting out material. And Nahum 1:8 with an overwhelming flood. It's all there. In just these several verses, we get the whole aspect of God's tool, water, and what can happen with this overwhelming deluge flood. Here's Devil's Lake. And people always say, well, the Wisconsin River used to flow through here. I told my students that because it sounded good. Wisconsin River flows out here somewhere. But this whole area was just all part of that first deluge that raced through Wisconsin, all the states, all the way to the Gulf of Mexico. All right? That is about as fact as you can say. All of that water that raced across, where did it come from? Again, a lot of people say, well, it came from the glaciers, but we're talking water racing and all, and the amount of it, and to have it so quickly. I believe, that's my personal opinion, it's the Arctic water that just raced. It went from ocean to ocean, racing over because God told it to, because he wanted that water to do things that we enjoy to this day. But the water raced over Devil's Lake. I believe it was carved out right here by that first deluge. And then there were things that were happening. As water was racing over here, it's going to produce Colk activity along the edges here. And the potholes is this area right over here. Matter of fact, they built steps to the potholes. And the potholes are right here. It's a series of really smooth rocks. And this is quartzite, the strongest rock around. And yet they're saying that this area, well, actually, geologists aren't quite sure what to say about it, because they want to say that it was a stream where a pebble got caught and did that. But a lot of these that are gouged out are horizontal. How can you have a rock horizontally gouging out? It doesn't make sense. Matter of fact, whenever you see a pothole in a river, it's usually a tube, you see. Well, all of the potholes here are blasted out. This one blasted out, blasted out. Why is it blasted out? Well, again, creation scientists, they were here last year and they were looking at this and they were talking about it. And I know because I heard from one of the persons in the discussion and they said, well, what do you think happened? And the answer was, I don't know. Because again, most creationists feel there were glaciers, that there was glacial ice about a mile here, but that meltwater, how did the meltwater target like right here? Like this one spot. And so people are confused because they're like, well, it's just going to be a mystery. But for you guys, no, there's no mystery. I'm going to give you guys 10 reasons why we know what actually happened here. So again, closer up of the potholes, super shiny. You go just a little bit away from it and that rock is a lot duller, it's harder. So it's only super shiny here. If you've been there and felt it, it's like a porcelain toilet. It is so smooth and so nice. Look at this, you got this piece down here, but why is that piece down here and where's the rest of it? Well, if you back up and you look down here, guess what you see? The smile. And what's the smile of God reveal? Coke activity. A coke came up here. A coke was actually caught right here. The pothole area is right below there. And this is more of a side view. You can see that the bluff should be coming across like this, but this has all been carved out, blasted out. And in the middle of that, you have this series of rocks. That's weird. You shouldn't have a bunch of rocks all the same size in the middle. There's something going on here. And again, it's not natural. But that would make sense that as the coke went up, the very middle of that would be a place where this rock is gathering and coalescing, kind of being lifted up. Right at the top of this area, it's polished. Well, that's where a lot of people say, well, the glaciers were there then. Glaciers polish, but coke's polish as well. And these are like dimple. These are all dimple. And then you have above this pothole region, you've got the places where they were blasted out above it. Doesn't gravity cause things to go downhill? Why are they uphill? When a coke is moving, where is it going? Uphill. It's bringing things uphill. And there's rocks that are there that you will only find there in the world. These, I call them cokites because they were formed by cokes. When it comes to the potholes, this coke that was forming it, there was something about that rock. It maybe just the softness, but the cokes, the swirling taking place, it was almost like the lightning of God striking this in producing this incredible smoothness. But this is from cokes. We know that because it's the whole coke presence is all about it. It just, again, it reminds me of when people found what lightning looks like when it strikes the ground. They find the sand and it looks all, kind of all, just like a big long rod type thing. But anyways, why is there absolutely no talk of cokes in society or the sciences? I think that's it. I think that when people who have the power understand what it means and they understand where things are at, they want to keep things as they are. I know in the Kettle Moraine, North Kettle Moraine, the latest report from 2010, they said that moraine is water-based. It's not from It's not from rock pushed there, it's from water based. But they can't change the name because it's culture and people will get upset. So we'll just kind of keep it as moraine and never mind, It's like, wow. They're admitting that they can share information with people to help them better understand, and yet they're going to really withhold it. This is the day and age we live, people. Our antennas have to be up, everything. God allowed me the Word of God to be the anchor. That's the one thing. That's the anchor. That's your truth. I'm starting with this, but now I'm having to revamp everything that I've seen, everything. And it's been wonderful. It has been absolutely wonderful. We know a cold can destroy land, but can a cold create it? This is what I talked with some people about. Here's a prairie, we have a plant, it's snow, but it's not snowing, and we have cone-shaped hills. How in the world do we get cone-shaped hills? That seems kind of crazy. But if we went down to a really small level, and each plant stem sticking out here and some grains of snow are coming by them, they get caught in the vortex. There's always when there's wind, there's a vortex. We're in a world of vortex. When you open the door, there's always dust bunnies right in a spot because there's vortex of air. So you have air spinning here, and that causes those particles to get caught and to collect, and they build up. They form hills shaped like canes. Near me, I have this cane out here, and again, geologists will say, well, that formed inside the ice. Remember, that it was so important that when I looked inside a glacier, I should be seeing lots of rock debris, but I wasn't. I was seeing like pure ice. So glaciologists say it comes from material coming down from above, but a vortex mound is actually, there is a vortex. Not so fast that it's a colk, but it's spinning around. You can take a beaker of sand and water, swirl it around, and you'll get a mound of sand in there. You'll get a mound-shaped hill. This is what's going on with our caves. They're vortex mounds. I've been really focusing on a lot especially this past winter, the big ones that are well over 100 feet tall. They're beautiful, but they also, you can see where at the top, colks actually form after the spinning because the spinning increased, and then they came down the sides and they carved out trenches. It's something that you can't explain from any other way. It's just there. It's for deluge minds to see. Scablands. I went there purposely to look for mounds, and I found a mound. I'm like, cool, all right. So there are mounds that deluge has produced. Not a scientist, by the way, has ever reported this. I don't know why, but they never talk about this. They talk about the potholes. North Kettle Moraine. We got our potholes, and look, we got our mounds within it as well. You got the Scablands, multiple vortex mounds. Northern Wisconsin, on my way to my buddies, I was taking some real back roads and came across 1, 2, 3, at least 3, maybe 4 mounds that remind me of this picture right here. Similar size too, all that from vortex. All from that vortex where the particles gather and come to the middle. This is Green Mountain, Oregon. This is, let's see, here's the gap, the Columbia River, the Missoula floodwaters race through here. And right here is where this mountain is. And this is the close-up of it. Now notice, it's right on the edge of this rim. If this was from a glacier and water was coming here, wouldn't this be the first to be attacked and washed away? But what was happening is that this deluge water, because of the gap, was producing a vortex, an eddy, and there was this vortex action which was protecting it while it was building up and forming. This Green Mountain, Oregon is over 400 feet tall. In Wisconsin, there's a place called Dundee Mountain that's 200 feet tall. And again, they say it's from glaciers. This is from deluge. I've been studying Dundee Mountain. There's deluge marks all over this place. Not just the pictures here, but my best trenches that I've seen are right near the base of Dundee Mountain. And this was so powerful that it had a huge impact on the land all around it in many, many ways. So ever seeing but never perceiving, that's all of us at some point in our lives about many different things. I know that was me for the whole idea of deluge. I was a good earth science teacher, but I was doing a good job teaching them the same old, same old. I was kicking the can, passing the baton. And, but not anymore, not anymore. And as we get into deluge, it's not just the water, but really, as I've been visualizing all this, it's living water. We know God has his finger on everything, especially during the flood and especially after the flood. He knew every little thing. With Jesus, when he commanded, every water molecule responded. Everyone. And we have to understand this as believers. He has the ability to do all of this. It's his power. We have to trust his power. We have to, and again, I'm not saying this to push the idea. I'm saying this because if I truly believed it was glaciers, I'd be pushing this really hard. But I just know when I walk, it's so much easier to look around and constantly be reminded of God's power versus, oh, it's glacier, type thing. There's a big difference. So this third verse, he is enthroned amongst the flood. That's from Psalms. That means an awful lot because he has left his mark behind. He is the living water. He has done all this, and these marks are here for us today. What we saw this morning, what we'll see this afternoon. Again, even the wind and the waters obey him. The most important thing, we don't have to say, well, there's got to be some kind of tectonic thing in order for that to happen. No, we don't. No, there might be, but God is God, and he can do whatever he chooses. He's almighty. So that's that. I think we're going to go for a walk. And again, for those who want to, this time we're not going to be going in that direction. We're actually going to be going this way for a little bit. And then we're also going to check out, if you notice, we have some kettles right here. These are actually a couple of troughs right here. And this morning we were around some big circular, potholes where those colks were spinning up against really steep areas. Well, here you're going to see where a colk just actually went in one direction and blasted out a trough and just eventually came up to the surface right there. So that'll be the latter part of our hike. This was something I did a number of years ago. I actually went to Rocha Cree State Park and set these up in the parking lot for people to come and talk to about the formation and all. It was actually kind of fun. But this is what we have in Wisconsin. The quote-unquote edge of the glacial ice by Madison and up there is about here. So they thought, again, Green Bay lobe there. This is central Wisconsin, thought to be untouched by glaciers. So you have these armadas. The Mill Bluff Armada has like 7 of these features, but they're all sandstone for the most part, but they're streamlined. They're shaped like ships. And the only way you can get something streamlined is to carve and see how it does with the wind or the water, or else put something solid in a deluge and let the elements handle it, and it'll produce the perfect shape. What's fascinating about these deluge mesas, again, they have all those key features, but they're so strong. The rock that was here was so weak, but the rocks that make the sides, it's like it became stronger, which tells me that the water that raced through, wherever these remained, that heat, and you can think of it as small vortices going by, that actually made them stronger. So if you visit them today and you look at the rock, it's just super strong, even though it's supposed to be so soft. Over here is the Wisconsin Armada. That is Rocha Cree. That's what we started with. It's beautiful. Yep. Dave hiked up there, right?
Once.
Yeah.
Never
Actually,
again.
never again. Actually, this is Rocher Creek. This one I represent as Petenwell. This is where, as a kid, we used to go fishing by it, and I would hike it, and it's really cool. But it has all of the beautiful Deluge Mesa marks. That one there, Petenwell Rock, and then this is like the town of Friendship. This is a mile long. This is the Friendship Deluge Mesa. It's huge. It's huge. I actually went to town of Friendship and I surveyed people. I'm like, how do you think your mountain got there? Half of the people said glaciers. A quarter of the people said they have no idea. And the other part said, what mountain? You know, so I learned a lot about people and surveys and all sorts of things. So anyways, I just thought it would be kind of fun to see this model. But if you go out there like Dave and you hike up you're going to be like, this is so weird. What's this thing doing here? Because everything else is flat. Well, again, the top of those is 300 feet above the ground, especially that. So all this has been gone. And by the way, something really important. If all the ground was this high and it started to form this right away here, then that means that, and everything is all lined up, that this is all one event. You see my point? If there was several different events, you wouldn't have this keep forming. But since we have the mark at the top, as those layers of ground started disappearing, that mark now switched to lower and lower and lower. So again, this is all testimony. This is what God has left behind for us believers to know about, so we can tell people that there's something really amazing that's taken place. And you just can't trust your eyes per se, but you need to understand there's bigger things at work here, you know. If you look across here, you can kind of see a trench, you know, across here. You can kind of see a little bit of edge across over there as well, although it's hard to say if that has anything to do with people. But what I found, remember when Kokes formed, there's a swarm? Some places in the Kettle Moraine, it was so intense that when you look at it, you're like, well, I don't see trenches. And that's because it was just there's a whole lot of this going on. So the work of one was being broken up by the work of another. So, and that's kind of like in this area over here. I think there was multiple Kokes. If you look across, do you guys see a dip? Do you see a saddle? Do you see a place where a Koke maybe crossed over on our path? Yeah, it's just a little, it was something from here, crossed over there. Just these little dips, these little signs here. First of all, who sees it across there? Do you see the smile across there? Okay, all right. So again, as I'm going, I'm always looking for the smile of God. And again, that's the level the ground can be, it was breached. So something cut through there to come over here and over there as well. Where we're going, you're gonna see where the top of the ground is. That's the same level as where we were talking way back over by the parking lot there, untouched. But look at this rim right here. Look at this trail. As the trail wraps around, the rim is beautiful. The rim is really, really uniform, which again is just testimony. And if you look at the sides here, very steep. All of these sides are uniform, been carved into, lacks any type of topsoil that originally was there, because Kokes will rooter as they go. So there was definitely the rootering taking place as it was spinning around in here before it probably hopped over to that side over there. So again, just thinking of the battle that took place to give us the looks that we have, the beauty that we see around us here. Hey guys, take a look down here. Do you guys see further evidence that there was something that invaded down here, a force from out in the lake? Remember we saw the smile of God from that perspective? You see how the land just cuts in right here? Yeah, we have something that just pierced right through here. And it matches right up with continuing on into this. So again, another invasion that occurred from what was going on out there, spinning around, producing multiple Kokes most likely over here. this is kind of cool because it shows a nice rim to the edge here. You could kind of think of it as a coal cavity that kind of comes across, but definitely a little bend to it. And do you guys remember on that map where we looked at how the big area, there's something that's aiming, it started wide to the east and it's coming to the west? Well, this is where that land is all cut through and it keeps going for another couple miles that way. But we're gonna walk down this path a little bit, and I think you'll see some of the coke troughs that have cut through here. But so this is kind of a pattern that just kind of pops up a lot in Wisconsin, where there's flat-topped areas. And I know, like I showed you pictures of in the Kettle Moraine, there's a whole sequence of flat-top areas that are separated a distance, but they're the same level. And again, that is just amazing because they were all connected. This was the land all the way across, but then whatever happened, the energy carved it out. And this is a survivor. What's interesting is this has typically like 3 sides to it. You can see that side is a rim over there, and then we have a rim over here, and then there's like, I don't know if that curls around or not, but it's like we're on top of a fortress or something, you know, and all the activity was going on around.